So commissioners, stakeholders, staff, thank you for being with us this morning. I will now convene the general session. Will the recording secretary please call roll?
Catherine Williams Brown.
Here.
Jose Cardenas.
Here.
C. Michael Cooney.
Here.
Michael Dilatorre. Marisol Dilatorre Escobedo. That's right. Anna Marie Francois.
Present.
Makita Grinnell Shire.
Present.
Megan Gross.
Present.
Johanna Harwick.
Present.
Susan Aradia. Terry Jackson.
Here.
Bonnie Clark.
Present.
Jan Marks.
Here.
Cynthia Martin. Monica Martinez.
Here.
David Simmons.
Here.
Gina Sloan.
Here.
Andrew Wall. We have a quorum.
Good. I'd like to remind members of the public who join the meeting through the webcast or the toll-free number that you may request to make public comment by sending an email to comments@ctc.ca.gov or call 916-322-6253. Please make sure the request includes your full name, your phone number if participating through phone only, your affiliation, and the agenda item number and title. Make sure the name you provide matches the name used to join the meeting. At the appropriate time, the meeting host will change your permission and ask that you turn on your camera and unmute your microphone to share your comment. At the conclusion of your comments, the meeting host will remove your permission and the camera and microphone will be disabled. Before I recess the general session, I just want to make one other announcement that we did not make yesterday, and that has to do with our very own Amy Rising. Amy, where are you? There you are. Amy has been appointed to serve as the Chief Deputy Director for the Commission. And yes, hooray. And she has already been doing a spectacular job in that role, as she does in all of her roles. So Amy, thank you for taking on that role for us. We are excited. All right. I now recess the general session and move to the Educator Preparation Committee. Commissioner Martinez, will you please reconvene the committee?
Yeah, thank you very much. And congratulations, Amy, who works a lot with Educator Prep Committee. So thank you and welcome to your more formal role, though you have been doing a great job. I'd like to reconvene the Educator Preparation Committee. We have 6 remaining items this morning. As you will recall, we did not do 4D yesterday, so we are going to lead with item 4D. Item 4D is proposed amendments to the Title V of the California Code of Regulations pertaining to pupil personnel services credentials and educator preparation program standards in school counseling, school psychology, school social work, and child welfare and attendance. This item is being presented by Josh Speaks. This is an action item. Mr. Speaks, will you please begin?
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. As the Chair stated, this item proposes amendments to Title V of the California Code of Regulations that are necessary to update the regulations to align with pupil personnel services, educator preparation program standards, and expectations. These standards and expectations cover all 3 of the PPS specialty areas.
My apologies to interrupt you. You're coming in and out. I don't know if you need to stay closer to the microphone. It's like, yeah, I think if you're closer, it just a couple sentences are quieter than others. My apologies to break in on you.
Sorry about that. I'll restart just in case so that everyone hears everything.
And you sound great right now, so thank you.
Okay, good. So as the chair stated, this item is proposing amendments to Title V of the California Code of Regulations that are necessary to update the regulations to align with the Pupil Personnel Services Educator Preparation Program standards and expectations. These standards and expectations cover all three of the PPS specialty areas: school counseling, school psychology, and school social work. While the Commission acted to adopt the standards and expectations back in 2019, they do not have the force of law until they are approved as regulations through a formal rulemaking process. Regulations explain or make specific the requirements of the Education Code and are our primary tool as a state agency for providing direction to our stakeholders. So this is the last step for the Commission in this rulemaking process. And I want to just recap where we've been. This will be the third time that these regulations have appeared before the Commission in some form. First, the standards and performance expectations themselves were adopted in April of 2019. And at that time, PSD staff was given authorization to begin the formal rulemaking process and publish a rulemaking notice. We did not receive any comments. However, staff themselves identified a minor change to the school psychology standards, which was presented to the Commission at a second meeting in February. That change also elicited no additional public comments and links to both that original performance expectation, standard and performance expectation item, and to the changes that were done in February are included in the agenda item that's in front of you today. So at this point, if the Commission approves this item, that will be the final authorization needed for staff to submit the package to the Office of Administrative Law for their formal review and approval. So specifically, what these regulations you're considering today would do is that they would repeal the current PPS regulations. And we're also creating a new section within Title V, Division 8, for the placement of these new PPS standards. It would also create a definition section that would apply not only to the PPS regulations, but also to all of our future program standards regulations. So it would be sort of a universal definition section. And we feel that that will provide additional clarity both to the Office of Administrative Law when they're reviewing future proposed regulations, and also just more broadly to our general public, so that they'll have one place where they can go if they need to understand what terms mean and what they do. And lastly, the regulations would also remove the term professional from section 80049B's B through D, as the Commission no longer uses that term. As many of you commissioners probably recall, that used to be a term sort of describing clear credentials, but it's no longer a term that we use, so it doesn't apply in our regulations anymore. So with that, staff recommends approval of these changes to Title V of the California Code of Regulations, which again would authorize us to make that final submission to the Office of Administrative Law. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you so much. This is an action item. We're now going to open for public comment. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
We do not have any public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you for checking on that. The public comment period for this item then is now closed. Given this is an action item, do I have any discussion? Commissioners, and do the virtual hand or whatever works for you all. Okay. I see Commissioner Cardenas. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to say thank you to the Commission for working on this. I know in the school counseling world and also within school psychologists and social workers, this has been a buzz and an excitement that it's been updated. It's been a long time since this has been updated. And so there's a lot of talk that just that excitement that our profession is really getting looked at, especially with professional standards. There's a lot of cross collaboration that's happening, especially right now during these times between school psychologists and social workers and school counselors, obviously because there's a need within our student population and also our staff. Just want to say, I think this is, again, a great thing moving forward, looking forward to implementing these standards across our state, and also removing that professional goes along with our national standards within school counseling, because we really are also talking about school counselors and taking away that professional. So thank you for looking at that. Thank you for putting all the work and also looking at the national standards as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardenas. Other questions or comments? Our action item will be to adopt the proposed regulations and direct staff to submit the final rulemaking file to the Office of Administrative Law. So any comments or clarifying questions? Well, given we have 5 other items, I think we'll go ahead and move on. And I'll ask for a motion. So do I have a motion that the commission adopt the proposed, oh, my apologies. Are you, Chair Sloan, are you making a motion?
I am moving that we adopt proposed regulations.
Thank you. And do I have a second? Okay, I see Commissioner Klatt. Thank you. So I have a second by Commissioner Klatt to that the commission adopt the proposed regulations and direct staff to submit the final rulemaking file to the Office of Administrative Law. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Will the recording secretary call for the vote? Each member please respond with aye, nay, or abstain.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Marisol De La Torre Escobedo, Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howard,
Aye.
Susan Heredia. I'm sorry, Susan Heredia,
Aye.
Terry Jackson,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Jim Marks,
Aye.
Cynthia Martin, Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons. Tina Sloan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Speaks. And we will move on to item 4F. Okay. Item 4F is initial institutional approval, stage 2, eligibility requirements for Relay Graduate School of Education. The item is being presented by Hart Boyd and Poonan Betty. This is an action item. Mr. Boyd, will you please begin?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Before we get into the specifics of the item, we thought it would be helpful to provide a brief overview of the initial institutional approval process, since we have a number of new commissioners. IIA is a process that any institution has to go through if it wants to offer an educator preparation program in California. And this can be an institution within California or outside of California. Several years ago, a new 5-stage IIA process was developed and adopted by the Commission. This new process includes decision points at the end of each stage that are meant to serve as safeguards that seek to ensure institutional and programmatic integrity throughout the process to full Commission approval. The main objective in briefly going over each stage is to let you know where we are currently in the process for the specific institutions coming before you today, and what your collective authority and responsibility is in relation to that specific stage. If you look at the 3rd page of the item, you will see the 5 stages of the IIA chart. The first stage is centered on 2 prerequisites which determine whether or not an institution is legally eligible to take part in the IIA process. For instance, an institution of higher education must be accredited by one of the 6 regional accrediting organizations in the United States. Relay Graduate School of Education as an institution of higher education, for example, is accredited by the Middle States Commission on Higher Education. For local education agencies, such as Huntington Beach UHSD, whose responses to the 12 eligibility requirements will be presented in the subsequent item this morning, board approval must be provided. In addition to providing evidence of legal eligibility, a prospective program sponsor must then attend an Accreditation 101 session hosted by Commission staff and administrators. This session provides an overview of the 5 stages of the IIA process, including the expectations for any institution that has been granted full Commission approval at the conclusion of IIA. One point that is repeatedly emphasized during and after Accreditation 101 is that the entire IIA process can take upwards of 5 years to reach full approval. This point is stressed to show prospective program sponsors the commitment to California's educator preparation policies and procedures that is required of any institution seeking full commission approval. In Stage 2, which is highlighted and what this body will make a determination on today, institutions submit responses to the 12 eligibility requirements. These requirements very closely resemble the general preconditions, which are requirements that all commission-approved institutions and educator preparation programs must be in continued compliance with. Staff makes a determination on criteria 1 through 9, while commissioners make a determination on 10 through 12. The commission makes a motion to approve or deny an institution moving forward in the process. As noted at the bottom of the Stage 2 column in the 5 stages chart, if an institution is granted eligibility to move forward to Stage 3, they still cannot operate their proposed programs. The purpose of Stage 2 is for the Commission to determine an institution's eligibility in moving forward towards provisional approval and to ensure that the institution has the capacity to sponsor effective programs. In Stage 3, an institution submits responses to the initial program preconditions, program-specific preconditions, and the common standards. Again, preconditions are concerned with institutional and program compliance and are reviewed by commission staff until all preconditions are aligned. The common standards, which are generally concerned with institutional infrastructure and support for the proposed programs, are reviewed by a Board of Institutional Review team. Just as with the Stage 2 agenda item, information will be summarized and will be provided to the Commission in the item. Additionally, a link to the institution's full submission will also be provided. The Commission will then act to grant or deny provisional approval, which will allow the institution to be recognized as an approved program sponsor. However, even with provisional approval, the institution will not be permitted to operate any programs, as no programs have been approved by the Committee on Accreditation, which occurs in Stage 4. In Stage 4, an institution will submit narrative responses and evidence to the program standards, which are concerned with program quality and effectiveness. These submissions will be reviewed by a team of qualified experts in the respective credential area being proposed. Like each of the preceding stages, this will be an iterative review process, and the programs will not be put before the Committee on Accreditation until all program standards are found to be aligned. Once reviewers have determined alignment to the standards, an agenda item will be written for the COA for their consideration of approval for the proposed programs. As you can see by the note at the bottom of the chart, an institution may only begin offering their proposed programs upon approval by the COA at the conclusion of Stage 4. After receiving program approval, an institution will move to Stage 5, where they will begin their preparations for a provisional site visit, which will come at the end of their 2 to 4 year provisional approval period. During this period, an institution will be able to have a cohort complete their approved program and will be able to gather data that will be used for the site visit. A site visit team and CTC consultant will then be assigned to the institution. Before the visit, the institution will provide a full program review and common standards submission that will be reviewed by the team. The team will provide the institution with feedback that is to be addressed prior to the visit, and then during the visit, the team will conduct interviews with various stakeholder groups to determine alignment to the program standards and common standards. Based upon the information obtained by the team leading up to and during the visit, the team will make an accreditation recommendation for the Commission's consideration. If the Commission determines to grant full approval to the institution at the conclusion of Stage 5, the institution will then be moved into a color cohort and will be responsible for meeting all requirements of the 7-year accreditation cycle that all fully approved institutions are subject to. With that, I will turn it over to Poonam to go over the item.
Thank you, Hart. I would like to direct this presentation now to item 4F, which presents Relay Graduate School of Education's responses to the Stage 2 eligibility requirements for the Commission's consideration and possible approval. Relay previously came before the Commission at its October 2016 meeting seeking Stage 2 IIA approval. At the time, the IIA process had just been revised, and Relay was the second institution to come before the Commission under this revised process. There were concerns raised during the meeting. Relay was denied eligibility, and they are now coming before the Commission once again. Based on the feedback provided by the commissioners at that meeting, Commission staff reviewed the IIA process again. The process was subsequently revised in 2017, as described by Hart, and has remained in place since then. So today, Relay has brought forth a brand new proposal seeking Stage 2 IIA approval to become eligible to offer the following proposed programs, which are also listed on page 1 of the item. The proposed programs are a preliminary multiple subject credential program, a preliminary single subject credential program with the content areas of English, mathematics, science, and social science, and a preliminary education specialist mild moderate credential program. With us today, we have the following representatives from Relay present. We have Davida Gatlin, who is the Senior Director of Academic Compliance. We have Dr. Alice Waldron, who's the Dean of Relay Online, and also Dr. Maya Weatherton, who's the Provost. They will be available to answer any of your questions about Relay's eligibility requirement submission. You will find the full submission provided as a link on page 2 after the link to the full eligibility requirements criteria document. As Hart noted earlier in the presentation, you will find the IIA chart. You'll find the IIA chart on page 3 of the item. The current stage 2, is highlighted. Approval of Stage 2 does not permit Relay Graduate School of Education to offer the proposed programs, as more specific information and documentation regarding the design of the proposed programs will be submitted in subsequent stages of the IIA process. And then from pages 4 to 7, you will find the staff recommendation of a line for each criterion 1 through 9. And then beginning on page 8, you will find information from Relay's responses to criterion 10 through 12 for the Commission's consideration. For criterion 11 specifically, the institution is required to post a third-party notification on their website, and to date, no comments have been received. Finally, considering the information provided in this agenda item, staff recommends that the Commission grant eligibility to Relay Graduate School of Education. This would allow the institution to move forward to Stage 3, and the Commission can identify topics you may specifically want to see addressed in Stage 3. If the Commission chooses to deny eligibility, you may identify what is seen as incomplete in the current submission. The institution may then work to address what the Commission has identified and come before the Commission again. And with that, staff is available to answer any process questions, and Davida, Alice, and Maya are available to answer any questions about Relay Graduate School of Education's eligibility requirement submission. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you both. We will now open for public comment. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
Yeah. Excuse me. We have Mime Hostetter.
Great, thank you.
Good morning, Commission. I am Dr. Mamie Hostetter. I'm the president of Relay Graduate School of Education. I'm also a proud former middle school teacher and mother of 2 kids, both of whom are lucky to be students in public school systems where Relay alums are teachers and leaders. Since becoming president of Relay, we have deepened our focus on establishing really strong relationships with TK-12 schools, including a growing number of traditional public districts. We've also refined our curriculum to further emphasize culturally responsive and inclusive practices. And prospective TK-12 partners in California have expressed that they would welcome Relay's practice-based online programs as an option for prospective teachers, especially as they work to diversify their teacher pipelines. At Relay, we believe in the power of teachers to do great things, especially when prepared and supported thoughtfully. We know impactful teachers make such a difference in the lives and outcomes of students, and we are very eager to serve California as an educator preparation program sponsor. Thank you for your time and consideration today.
Thank you. Recording Secretary, are there other public comments?
We have no additional public comments.
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Yeah, Commissioner, boy, the screen is like moving around for some reason, but I'm pretty sure I just saw Commissioner Greno-Shire. You guys are kind of moving. It's like the game right now. I don't even know where she is on the screen. Commissioner Greno-Shire, did you have? Oh, there we go. You're up there now. Okay, go for it.
Good morning to all. Could I ask our colleagues at Relay to talk a little bit about faculty capacity? I'm looking at item or the page 11, and the personnel are listed, and I see adjunct instructors, and I'm curious as to what their qualifications and experiences are.
Good morning, commissioners. We're very happy to be with you here today. I'm Dr. Alice Waldron, and thank you so much for that question. The qualifications for our adjunct instructors are quite similar for those of our full-time faculty. So we prioritize that all of our instructors themselves were excellent TK through 12 teachers, such that they can best prepare our candidates and work with them to support them in driving student learning and positive experiences for all TK through 12 students. Additionally, all of our faculty need to at least have a master's degree, with many of our faculty holding doctoral degrees.
Great, thank you. Any follow-up question, Commissioner Greno-Shire? Okay, I'm gonna move on to Commissioner Brown and then Chair Sloan.
Thank you very much. You read my mind, Commissioner Greno-Shire. I was also interested in the faculty, as I saw no full-time faculty on that list. So that's a question that I still have. The second question that I have has to do with the clinical practice and internship. I wondered if I was inquiring if you could describe that and compare and contrast the two options there. And my third question was actually was just a comment. It was really good to see that you're talking about both academic achievement and social emotional learning. And the third piece of that, in terms of a query, was to ask more about what you described as culturally responsive and inclusive practice and teaching. I wanted to hear more about what that meant to you all. That's probably too full, huh?
I appreciate all of the questions. I heard too clearly for clinical practice the difference between the residency and the intern pathway, and then talking about what culturally responsive practices and inclusive practices mean to us. I think you referenced three. Is there a third one that I missed before I answer?
The third one was to just, I noticed that it looked like there's only adjunct faculty in this program, no full-time, even though your previous person said that they had the same requirements as full-time. I don't see any full-time faculty listed for this program that might be coming to California.
Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying. So we will absolutely, I'll start with that one. We will absolutely have full-time faculty overseeing the program in California. In each of the areas, we will have a full-time faculty lead. So for example, for each of the preliminary preliminary areas such as mathematics, science, social sciences, English language arts, the multiple subjects, as well as the education specialists for mild, moderate special education needs. We will have a full-time faculty lead in each area. And then we may potentially have additional full-time faculty. We haven't outlined the detailed staffing plans as we expect to learn more about our partner needs in the coming stages. And at that point, we may build out even additional faculty beyond that if needed. So that I'll pause after the answer to the first question, see if you have any follow-ups, and then I'll move to your other two.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's talk clinical practice. Thank you for that question. We are really excited to talk to you about clinical practice, as in both tracks, both the residency track and the intern track. We work really closely with LEAs, and we look forward to that collaboration in California to make sure that our teacher candidates are supported. So what that means specifically in our residency track is that teacher candidates have a full 1-year gradual on-ramp to the teaching profession, where they take on an increasing scope of responsibility across the year, all while supervised by an LEA-employed mentor teacher who works closely with Relay and Relay supervisors to think about the candidate needs, to think about what skills and development areas they're focusing on over the course of the year, and support them in taking on that extra responsibility leading up to their 4-week student teaching assignment at the very end of the year. And working closely in contact with both Relay and their site-based mentor throughout that entire. In the internship program, of course, clinical experience will be the teacher candidate teaching in their own classrooms. And there we also take a very close, we focus on collaborating very closely with LEA-employed school mentors to think about the needs of the teacher candidates throughout the year. And so for both tracks, Relay works closely. We meet regularly with our current LEA partners and are excited to do so with LEA partners in California to learn about teacher needs and the candidate needs, to talk to them about what we're working on, what they're seeing, adjust courses necessary. We also, for mentor teachers in both tracks, the intern and the residency track, we provide not only an orientation for those LEA-based mentors, but we provide ongoing support and development on the areas that they're working on with their teacher candidates, as well as on things like coaching adults. So I'll pause there before I move on to culturally responsive pedagogy.
Thank you. I noticed that there was, you described 144 hours a year per year. Is that does that include the online orientation, and is that connection online only or in person? I noticed that the 45 hours was focused on English language learning, SMART for California, but there's also a variety of issues around culture and race and ethnicity, working with families, and issues around the possibility of special education as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the follow-up question. And I completely agree with you. So I'm eager to share some more details here. So when I mentioned the orientation and the ongoing training, those are for the mentor teachers. And so when we think about the clinical, which covers similar content, absolutely, but thinking about coaching the teacher candidates. When we think about the clinical experience, and I think I focused a lot on the mentor teachers at the LEAs, but of course, the Relay faculty are also providing support throughout that clinical experience. And so that can take a variety of forms in the online environment. So to get a little more concrete for you, faculty supervisors of the teacher candidates will conduct the regular, primarily video-based observations, where they are able to coach teacher candidates around all of the competencies that are so critical for not only supporting English language learners, but all students in the classroom. Additionally, faculty will hold regular seminars. Since we are an online program, we convene regularly with our teacher candidates on Zoom, and we hold seminars where candidates are able to get feedback, they're able to practice, they are able to collaborate with each other, they're able to discuss and make meaning of their coursework. And so all of that will be part of the candidate's supervision, in addition to the close collaboration that we do with the mentor teachers at the LEAs.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I'd love to talk a little bit about, I think the last question from you then is the culturally responsive pedagogy aspect of our curriculum. This is something that we feel really strongly about, so I really appreciate the question. As we are thinking about our curriculum, we know that it is incredibly important for all students to feel welcome and to have their assets valued in the classroom. They deserve to learn in a supporting environment where they can thrive and succeed. And so we see culturally responsive and inclusive practices as a foundation throughout all of our curriculum. So it is not a single course. Rather, it is integrated throughout our coursework. So I can give one example to get more concrete from some graduate students I'm currently working with. They are currently working on thinking about how to use data to inform their instruction. And one of the sources of data that they use is they pick survey items for their students to learn how their students feel about their classroom. And those items might vary based on the students. So for example, several of the candidates I'm working with now have picked an item about whether they feel their teacher values their home language in the classroom and whether they feel their teacher values their culture in the classroom. From that data, we look together at trends and identify literature-based practices to help the teacher continue to build that welcoming environment for the teacher, for the TK-12 students in their classrooms. And so that's one concrete example, and I'd love to invite my colleague, Dr. Weatherton, to add anything that she would like in her capacity as provost as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Waldron. I would just add that building a culturally responsive and inclusive learning environment is one of the 4 evidence-based competencies in which our curriculum is grounded. All program and course competencies were derived by culturally responsive and inclusive research, including the works of Gloria Ladson-Billings, the Cedar Center, CAST Universal Design for Learning Framework, and Zaretta Hammond. Culturally responsive and inclusive pedagogy is such a curricular priority that our candidates engage in this, as Dr. Waldron named, throughout the arc of the program. The approach to building a culturally responsive and inclusive learning environment includes research and national educator standards-based approaches around 3 components: positive classroom relationships, supportive classroom organization structures, and cultivating student engagement. We currently teach restorative practice-based electives in New York City, and our hope is to be able to offer such content in California as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Dr. Anderson.
Great, thank you for the questions, Commissioner Brown, and the thoroughness of the responses relay. Commissioner Sloan, and I don't see any other questions after this or any hands raised, but please feel free to.
At the risk of interrupting, I see Terry Jackson's hand, just because I'm not sure if you can see it.
Yeah, Dr. Jack, I have a hard time seeing it because it's right on the California seal. So thank you so much, Commissioner Brown. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I might need you sometimes to raise your actual hand. Okay, so Chair Sloan and then Commissioner Jackson. Thank you so much, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. So I have 3 questions as well. One of my questions has to do with the geographic sort of connection that the program might have in California. So currently Relay operates out of New York. You offer credential programs across 10 different states. And one of my first questions has to do with under criterion 3, commission assurances and compliance, that you will participate fully in the commission's accreditation system. My question has to do with the accreditation. How are you going to ensure that the candidates that you have in California are meeting California standards and the kind of preparation that you create for them here are also meeting California standards when you also have 10 other states?
Thank you for that question. We think it is really important to ensure that all of our candidates are prepared to meet the standards of their state and to support the needs of the students and the communities in their local context. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this. We will approach this from a few ways to ensure that we are meeting all of the California program standards and that all of our candidates are developed to demonstrate the teacher performance from the California perspective. And so what we will do is, as we move forward in the application process, as we hope to, we will be developing curriculum and matching curriculum to the California program standards specifically. And so we will be thinking about which courses are best suited to our California candidates and building the program for the California candidates specifically with those in mind. Additionally, we pair this throughout our experience in supporting candidates in multiple states, as you have noted. We pair this with really emphasizing deep faculty knowledge of local standards and requirements, in addition to faculty knowledge of the needs of the TK-12 students in the classrooms and getting to know them. So we think about this in faculty hiring and training, and we also think about it in preparation for faculty teaching. When they are getting ready to teach a group of candidates, they are learning about the local context throughout that time and continuing to learn in conjunction as they work with local mentor teachers, for example. So that is the primary way in which we will ensure that we are meeting the local requirements. I will also say that as we hope to begin to collaborate with LEAs in California to serve teacher candidates, that it is possible that we will have faculty in California. We know that there is deep expertise of the California standards required for supervision, and so we will be looking for that when we are hiring and matching faculty supervisors. We also do have a couple of faculty members who live in California currently.
So that does lead me then to my second question, which is understanding a little bit more about the geographic connection that Relay would have to the LEAs that are the new teacher candidates would be prepared in. One of the things that we know in teacher preparation that is important is the partnerships between the programs, whether they are in Institute of Higher Education or LEA, and the communities that their teacher candidates serve, and the partnerships between those. And very often, and more importantly, the kind of preparation that the teacher candidates receive are responsive to the communities and the students, the specific students within California, within those communities that they're serving, context-specific preparation, if you will. I did hear that there would be leads in the different content areas. What I want to understand a little bit more about is how you are connecting to specific geographic areas. I did read one part of the application that said, if you have a faculty supervisor who happens to be near a candidate who is placed somewhere, then that faculty supervisor may provide in-person supervision. What concerned me about that is it looked a little more happenstance, like just maybe this person we've hired might be close enough to this candidate who's placed there. I want to understand how you are creating this cohort and the connection in these geographic areas.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. And again, we are very committed to ensuring that we're collaborating with LEAs and candidates with a deep understanding of the local context. Our program that we are proposing to deliver online. And so what we will really focus on is ensuring that through the online modality, we can learn and collaborate with the partner LEAs and with teacher candidates. We've done a little bit of this already in California Our instructional leadership professional development program has worked directly on the ground with more than 500 school leaders in California. And a lot of what motivated us to come before you today was about the needs that we were hearing directly from those folks. And so we're really excited to be here and to potentially partner with some of those partner LEAs. In terms of the actual work that we do at the online campus to ensure that we are making those connections, is we meet very regularly with the partner LEAs and collaborating with the mentor teachers. And we teach, one thing that I think is special about our program is we teach live and we practice and discuss with our students in the online environment. So with the regular touch points with students, we always include time for community building to hear about their successes and any challenges that we're facing. On the end of the collaboration with the LEA and the mentor teacher, those regular points of communication and meetings, those are also frequently live and over Zoom. We have time to discuss individual needs of the teacher candidate, of the TK through 12 students in their rooms, and we prepare and we make adjustments to our curriculum based on those needs. We also do a lot of the upfront learning, and that I mentioned before, about the state-specific program standards and that, but we think it's very important as we are actually implementing the program to continue to learn and partner with our local partners to ensure that we are meeting all students' needs and the specific needs in the context.
So are you planning to offer, are you planning to work with schools across the entire state? Are you going to be focused in one geographic area? Are you going to be focused on urban or rural, or is it just everyone?
Thank you for the question. We are excited to partner with a variety of schools in California. We do have letters of support from several schools, and one that I'll highlight that I am excited about with the online modality in particular is our letter of support from the Small School Districts Association. We know that there is a need, a teacher need in rural areas in particular. And we think that the cohort building that we do online, where we can bring together teachers with similar contexts, is going to be really powerful in rural areas, in addition to, of course, bringing the strengths of our program to the leaders that we have been working with in California already, some of whom are in urban areas as well, and have been really asking for our program.
Okay, well, that just leads me to my last question is, you're operating in 10 different states. Why do you want to operate in California?
Thank you for that question. And we are so excited to be here with you today. So I'm very glad that you asked. We are here with you today because we are excited to help meet the need for teachers in California. We know, based on the most recent report from the CDE, that more than 20,000 teachers are likely going to need to be hired in the coming year. And as I've mentioned before, in working with those more than 500 school leaders in our instructional leadership professional development program in California specifically, we have heard from them that they have a need for our program. And I would also reference, in terms of need, really thinking, and we're excited to partner more deeply with the Small School Districts Association. Their letter of support has referenced that more than 80% of rural communities have reported a teacher shortage. So we're excited to meet the need. But going beyond that, we are really excited to meet the need with a high quality residency and internship program online. We have great success in our online programs. We started serving students online before COVID, and that has really allowed us as an institution to develop strong and relationship-based and practice-based online pedagogies that we think are going to serve, based on our conversations with potential partner LEAs, are going to serve the teacher candidates in California incredibly well. Additionally, we know it is a goal of the Commission and our partner LEAs to diversify the teacher workforce, and we are particularly excited to collaborate with you and collaborate with LEAs on diversifying the workforce. For example, at the online campus at Relay, currently, almost 3/4 of our teacher candidates identify as people of color, and we know that it is incredibly important for all TK through 12 students to have teachers of color, and we are really excited to collaborate on that goal with you and with our future partner LEAs.
Thank you, Dr. Waldron.
Thank you for the questions.
Thank both of you. I'm going to move on to Commissioner Jackson, and then we're going to go to Commissioner Grenoshire.
Yes, thank you. I was really happy that Commissioner Brown had posed your approach in terms of culturally responsive pedagogy. And I know you mentioned some really, heavy hitters in that area and everything, but I really want a little more detail about how your candidates will receive that kind of training and that kind of background and everything. Will you have direct training, for instance, from Zaretta Hammond, who is from California? That's one thing. And then also, what is your approach in terms of SEL? I know that's in the spotlight, but what approach will you be using in that arena?
Thank you so much, Commissioner, for giving us the opportunity to speak on both those areas again. They're very important to us. And so, as I mentioned, with culturally responsive practices and inclusive practices, those are included throughout our curriculum. So they're any course that a teacher candidate is taking or throughout clinical supervision, they're going to experience learning and reflection and practice related to culturally responsive and inclusive instruction. If you can connect us to Zaretta Hammond, we would love that. We do not currently work directly with her. I will let Dr. Weatherson correct me if I happen to be wrong on that. But what we do, and we take very seriously, is ensuring that we are keeping current. We are constantly revising our curriculum and staying current with research and practices in the field and integrating that into our curriculum. So a little bit of detail about, for example, the balance between our asynchronous and our synchronous curriculum. Teacher candidates often learn and read a lot of the research and the asynchronous work, such that when they are coming to synchronous classes, they are really prepared to discuss, they are prepared to reflect, they are prepared to practice. So thinking about, okay, well, what am I going to do in my upcoming lesson to integrate the assets of my students? What am I going to do in my upcoming lesson to help students do some communal work? And think about the practical applications and then transfer those to their classrooms. In terms of clinical supervision, we also look for that in terms of, for example, reflecting on survey data. As I mentioned, we have teacher candidates do things like rewatch their video. And in this way, I think video observation can be particularly powerful to notice who they're calling on, to notice any interactions, notice any power dynamics there. And always think of it through a lens of getting rid of any potential bias and promoting an asset-based and inclusive environment. I'll pause there in case I'd love to give Dr. Weatherson the opportunity to weigh in as well, and then we can take any follow-up questions and move on to socio-emotional learning as well.
Thank you, Dr. Waldron, and thank you for the follow-up question. What we emphasize are 5 culturally responsive teaching strategies for our educators. We want our educators to be able to activate students' prior knowledge, to make learning contextual, encourage students to leverage their own cultural capital. We also encourage them to reconsider their classroom setups. Do they include authors of diverse races? Is the LGBTQ community represented? And to build relationships. Not all students want to learn from teachers who do not make them valued. So I just wanted to add that those are also critical components and strategies that we teach to all of our educators throughout the arc of their program.
Thank you. I think I saw, before we go to Commissioner Grenoshire, Executive Director Sandy. I think you were trying to get in, or no?
I just wanted, yes, I did. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to interject for a moment, and if you'll permit me, I'd like to invite Cheryl Hickey to just jump in on the procedural question right now about what stage this institution is in and what standards and requirements they are being examined against right now versus in the next stage. So can I turn it over to Cheryl, please?
Thank you so much. Yes, please. And Ms. Hickey.
Yes, I just wanted to remind the commissioners that it is a 5-stage process and that we are at the very beginning of the stages. So as the the provisions move forward, if should that be the Commission's choice at the moment, there will be many opportunities still to talk about the curriculum, the clinical practice, the response to the common standards. They have not yet provided us any, because it's our process, have not yet provided us responses to common standards or program standards. So just wanted to remind the commissioners about where we are in the stage of the process. We're looking at the eligibility criteria, and of course you have concerns and issues that you want to bring up, which is wonderful, but we just wanted to remind you where we are in the process.
Great. Thank you. We always depend on our CTC staff to keep us clear in our role. Let's see. So I'm moving on to Commissioner. Well, first I want to ask Commissioner Jackson, were there any follow-up questions?
No, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Greno-Shire?
Given where we are in the stage, I won't ask the 3 questions that I was going to ask. I'll save them for another time. But I do have a question regarding what is the tuition and financial aid and scholarship support for students who participate in graduate relay school?
A great question. Thank you for that. So affordability is one of our focus areas. We haven't yet set the tuition for the California specific program, but we are committed that cost will not be a barrier to access. And a few concrete things I can tell you is that the average cost of our program for a year now is $6,000 to $9,000, and we help our teacher candidates offset that through things like federal financial aid, private scholarships, or AmeriCorps awards where possible, and that kind of thing. So it is very important to us to ensure that cost is not a barrier. Additionally, Relay Graduate School of Education has the lowest median student debt load of all graduate schools of education in the federal debt database. And so we are very excited to continue that focus on affordability and not allowing cost to be a barrier as we move forward in the process and set the tuition for the California-based program.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that. I see 2 other hands, and Commissioner Francois and Student Liaison Jones.
I believe Student Liaison Jones had her hand raised first.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. So I have 2 questions. Out of your preliminary credential options, is there a dual credential option at your site? And I just wanted to ask that question. I have some follow-up questions if so, but is there a dual credential option?
We are currently proposing a dual credential option between either with the multiple or single subject credential along with the education specialist credential. We will look more into what the details of that look like as we move forward in the process to determine if we will definitively offer the dual credential or not. I can speak to how we offer it in other locations right now, but it is something we are thinking about the details of. But I welcome your follow-up questions for sure.
Yeah, and how long are your programs for your credentials? I know I see that it's a year for residency and then for internship, is that just a year too, or is it courses and then you get into that?
Excellent question. Our credential programs proposed for California would be 1 year for the single credential. One of the biggest questions that we have about whether we will move forward with the dual credential is currently anywhere we offer a dual credential, it is not a 1-year program. It is a 2-year. It is more than 1 year, usually 2 years.
Okay.
And so we would be looking into what that might look like with the California requirements as we move forward, as we hope to move forward at least.
Awesome. And my last question is, I'm hearing that you all are at 10 different states, and I'm sure there's a lot of troubleshooting when you first start off with the states because there's different needs, different students. My question is that what has been the method of learning the needs of your new state's population students? Not necessarily the trainings that you're going to give the mentor teachers or the supervisor teachers, but knowing your students that you have before you start with them. Do you have any type of methods of getting to know them understanding what needs they may have before they enter into your program?
I love that question. To clarify, you mean the TK through 12 students, right?
Yes, you're the students in your education preparation program.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. We at Relay we all do this work because we are committed to the success and the positive experience of the TK through 12 students. So before we begin working with teacher candidates and with of course, supporting them to support their own students. We work with our partner LEAs to learn about the students and to hear from them what are the strengths and the assets of their students and their communities. I think that really is deepened as we do get into the work with our teacher candidates. It is something that is always front and center throughout our clinical supervision and our coursework, is thinking about what are we learning about student thinking? What are we learning about what students are great at and how we can amplify that? And so we think a lot about evidence with our teacher candidates of, what are they seeing from their students in the classroom? What are they hearing from their students? We have them survey their own TK through 12 students and bring that data and reflect on it with us so that we can get to know their students alongside of them.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think I
misinterpreted.
I meant your teacher candidates.
Candidates.
Yes, the folks who are going to be doing the teaching.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's all good. How are we getting to know them and their needs before they get into the program?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so after they are admitted, we run several info sessions for them to help them understand how our program works and to get to know a little bit about them. We also do things like provide technology orientations and support, since we are an online program, to make sure that they feel comfortable. Then from their first coursework with us, we prioritize significant amounts of time devoted to community building. And for that reason, usually our first coursework is in the summer with our teacher candidates. And it's an area of particular pride because we have our candidates express that they feel like part of a community based on that intentional community development. And frequently we hear comments like, oh, I didn't know online learning could feel like this, and giving shout outs to each other and really building that community dynamic. And then throughout the year, of course, we create, because we teach synchronously very regularly, we provide space in every class for the teacher candidates to share how they're doing, to share their recent wins and their challenges, and to continue to deepen those relationships over time. And just like I got excited to talk about the TK through 12 students, our candidates are so committed to those students themselves that we love learning about, what they're thinking about for the students in their classrooms, and getting to know their challenges and their excitement around that, and continuing that collaboration. And thank you for the redirect.
Thank you, Dr. Waldron. I apologize. I would just want to add that we work very closely with the LEAs to identify strong candidates for the program, ensuring that they are committed to the communities that they serve, oftentimes having been a product of those individual communities. So in addition to those information sessions, individual candidates have support from their partner LEAs in terms of attracting diverse candidates and minimizing any potential barriers that they may have to the profession, barriers including information about cost, or we often encourage partners to cover some of the costs and help candidates navigate the required paperwork for enrollment into our program. And year over year, our students, particularly this year, where we had to transition so quickly and make pivots to online learning for all of our teacher candidates, have really indicated success with the program and success with the platform that they are using this current year. And so just wanted to name those things for you all as well.
Thank you.
You're good, Commissioner or Student Liaison Jones? All right. Okay.
Good morning. Thank you so much to the Relay team for providing us with so much good information this morning. This may have been touched upon multiple times during this conversation, but I just want to make sure that the commissioners are very clear before we move forward. I noticed in the section criteria 11, I think it was, around history and effectiveness, that your previous request for at this stage was denied. And I want to be very clear about what is different this time around.
For the question. We are very excited to be back before you today. We were one of the first institutions to go through the process. And so since that time, as I mentioned before, one of the main things is that we have worked and trained over 500 school leaders in California to and we have heard from those partner LEAs about the need for our program, and really deepened our understanding of the California context and our commitment to partnering with the LEAs in California. Additionally, one thing that is quite different is that when we came before you before, we did not have a fully online program. And so the online campus, the campus that I'm the dean of, we started accepting students fully online in 2018. And since then, we have seen really strong success. Our most recent end of year survey data from our students, for example, shows that almost 100% of them feel that Relay impacts their teaching and impacts the learning of the students in their classrooms. So we feel very confident in the online modality and the way that we base it on relationships with the teacher candidates and focus on success and experience for the TK through 12 students. And we know that, for example, with our letter of support from the Small School Districts Association, we think that the online modality can be particularly effective in supporting the need for teachers in California, and as myself and Dr. Weatherton have mentioned before, in supporting the goals of the commission and our partner LEAs to diversify the teacher workforce.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, how long have you been offering the residency and intern program fully online?
We have the fully online campus. We welcomed our first students in 2018. Prior to that, the team that I work with taught some classes online for our students at in-person campuses. And so we have gone through a continuous learning process of really developing our online pedagogy. Since the pandemic, based on the strength of our online pedagogy, Relay has also trained more than 10,000 external participants in online instruction.
And that's, those participants were part of a residency and or intern pathway?
Sorry, no, that is just something that they are completely external to Relay. So any teacher or school leader in the country could sign up for it. It was a professional development series. One reason I highlight that is to highlight, I think, how we have established our online pedagogy. In terms of teacher candidates in the residency program online, we have been operating since 2018. And we have not served 10,000 students in that way. That is external participant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for those questions and asking the specific difference from our last one. All right, I do not see any more hands, but clearly I've been challenged this morning. Switched out some glasses. Very bright in here. Any other questions? And truly, if I don't see your virtual hand, just wave. Okay. Not seeing any other questions. This is an action item. I also want to just thank Relay for the level of detail to your answers. This is an action item. So do I have a motion to either grant?
Excuse me.
There you go.
Martinez.
Yes, please.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay.
So someone can let me back in after this is deliberated. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and move forward. I don't see anything else. Anybody else? So, okay. Do I have a motion to either grant eligibility to Relay Graduate School of Education to move forward to stage 3, or a motion to deny eligibility? Okay, I see a motion by Commissioner Klatt to fill in the blank.
To approve or to grant eligibility.
For stage 3. Thank you.
For stage 3.
Do I have a second? Okay, I see Commissioner Clooney. I have a
Yes.
second. Thank you. We will now call for any other discussion. Okay, we're now going to call for a vote. Will the recording secretary call for the vote? Each member respond with aye, nay, or abstain.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney,
Aye.
Michael De La Torre,
Aye.
Marisol De La Torre Escobedo,
I just joined the meeting, so I'll be recusing myself.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Harwick,
Aye.
Terry Jackson,
Abstain.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Jen Marks,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Gina Sloan.
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Commissioners, thank you for the in-depth questions. Relay, thank you for your presence and your responses. And Mr. Boyd and Ms. Beatty, thank you for bringing this to the commissioners. The motion carries, and we're going to move on to item 4G. Okay. Item 4G is initial institutional approval. Oh, and can we make sure we have Commissioner Edidia? I think she has to call back in. And then I just want to make sure that our speakers from the previous item are no longer on the call. I still see a placeholder for one of the relay members. Okay. Great. Okay. We'll start slowly and hope that our other commissioner can catch up. Okay. Item 4G, initial institutional approval. Stage 2, again, eligibility requirements for Huntington Beach Union High School District. This item is being presented by Michelle Williams-George. This is an action item. Ms. Williams-George, will you please begin?
Thank you, Commissioners, and good morning. Item 4G presents for the Commission's consideration and possible approval Huntington Beach Union High School District responses to the Stage 2 eligibility requirements. Huntington Beach Union High School District is seeking initial institutional approval for eligibility to offer a teacher induction program for their district. 3 representatives are with us today: Kendra Rosales, Induction Coordinator and Lead Program Developer; Chris Long, Educational Technology Coordinator and integral to helping Kendra develop the program; and Dr. Rocky Murray, Executive Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Categorical Programs, who will oversee the program development. They are here to answer any questions regarding Huntington Beach Union High School District eligibility requirements submission. You will find the full submission provided as a link on page 1 and after the link to the eligibility requirements criteria. On page 2 of item 4G, you'll find the IIA chart with the current stage highlighted. Approval of stage 2 does not permit Huntington Beach Union High School District to offer the proposed program, as more specific information and documentation regarding the design of the proposed program will be submitted in subsequent stages of the IIA process. On pages 3 through 5 of item 4G, you'll find staff recommendations of aligned for criteria 1 through 9. On pages 6 through 9, you'll find Huntington Beach Union High School District responses to criteria 10, 11, and 12 for the Commission's consideration. For criterion 11, the institution is required to post a third-party notification to their website, and to date, no comments have been received. Finally, considering the information provided in this agenda item, staff recommends that the Commission grant eligibility to Huntington Beach Union High School District, which would allow the institution to move forward to stage 3. The Commission may identify topics it will want to see addressed in stage 3. If the Commission chooses to deny eligibility, it may identify what it sees as incomplete in the current submission. The institution may then address those items and come forward again for approval of stage 2. Staff is available to answer any process questions, and Huntington Beach Union High School District representatives are available to answer any questions regarding the eligibility requirements submission. Thank you for the consideration of this item.
Thank you, Ms. Williams-George. We will now open for public comment. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
We have no public comments.
Okay. We will now open for questions from the commissioners to the CTC staff or to Huntington Beach. Okay, I see Commissioner Klatt has her hands up.
Oh, there, I unmuted. Thank you. I have a question for the representatives from Huntington Beach. I was looking over the materials, and under the coach and administrator expectations, it says that your coaches will spend a minimum of 1 hour per week with the teachers they're working with. And I'm just curious, I have a couple of questions. One, do you anticipate that the coaches will be teachers currently assigned to classrooms, or will these be teachers on special assignment? And I may have a follow-up question after your response.
Thank you, Commissioner Klatt, for your question. First, I am not Chris Long. I am Kendra Rosales. And as this year has gone, my Chromebook decided to die right before we hopped on. So I am on Chris's computer, but I am indeed Kendra Rosales, and I will be serving as the induction coordinator. Flex and flow as the year goes, right? So with your question, yes, our coaches are current classroom teachers, and we have built into the classroom teacher schedule, every teacher has a prep period. And so typically how it works is that our coaches would have the opportunity to meet with candidates during their prep period, as well as an agreed upon time between the candidate and the coach. Obviously, given this year, we have had far more virtual meetings. That is something that has been explained to us by our coaches and candidates that that's actually been really beneficial in certain circumstances. So I would imagine moving forward that we would continue to do a blend of both virtual meetings and in-person meetings between the candidate and the coach.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up. So the prep periods, the teacher prep periods, do all of the teachers have the same prep period, or how would you ensure that the prep period of the candidate and the prep period of the coach are aligned?
That is determined mostly by site needs. At times it can be aligned at the same time. However, we usually actually sometimes try to have it not be the same period. So that way the coach has the opportunity to observe their candidate teaching. So when they have the same period off, that isn't as easily done. I, however, as the induction coordinator and the ed tech coordinator, Chris Long, who's sitting beside me, we are both fully released teachers. So if the need should arise for us to either need to go in and help with additional observations or help with additional support, whether that be with the candidate or covering the coach's class, so the coach was able to then go assist the candidate, that is a possibility.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Commissioner Klatt.
Questions from other commissioners? I don't see any other questions. I've now reduced my screen a little bit to read, so give me a yell if I missed something. But this is an action item.
Commissioner Martinez, I had a quick question.
Yes.
I just had a question in regards to your current capacity for coaches. I know when districts have instructional coaches, it's not a lot of coaches that they have to really support a lot of the teachers. So what is your current capacity and what are you looking to expand?
Thank you, Commissioner Cardenas, for that. We are fortunate here in Huntington Beach Union High School District that we are smaller. And so we are excited to start small and hopefully expand, assuming we receive approval later. Right now, our capacity is that we have 15 current coaches that are serving 21 candidates. We try to not solicit for coaching applications to be completed until August when our hiring is settled. So that way we can more appropriately match candidates with their coaches. For example, this year we had more special education teachers be hired than in past years. And so when we look to hire coaches, we want to make sure that we are hiring coaches within our district currently. That will expand hopefully to outside districts later on, that can fully support the candidate in their classroom role.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to move towards the motion now. And so do I have a motion to either grant eligibility to Huntington Beach Union High School District to move forward to stage 3 or to deny eligibility? Okay, I have a motion to fill in the blank for me, Commissioner Gross, to grant eligibility or?
To grant eligibility.
Okay, great, thank you. So I have a motion from Commissioner Gross to grant eligibility for stage 3. Do I have a second? Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Heredia to grant eligibility. Recording Secretary, are there any other questions? Any discussion? Okay. Recording Secretary, will you take a vote? And as a reminder, aye, nay, or abstain?
Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney.
Aye.
Marco De La Torre.
Aye.
Marisol De La Torre Escobedo.
Aye.
Megan Gross.
Aye.
Johanna Harwick.
Aye.
Susan Aradia.
Aye.
Terry Jackson.
Aye.
Bonnie Clark.
Aye.
Jen Marks.
Aye.
Monica Martinez.
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Tina Sloan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Williams-George, and thank you,
Thank
Honey.
you.
And congratulations.
Thank you so much to the commissioners for your time and approval. And thank you, Michelle, for your guidance. We look forward to seeing you again.
Fantastic. Okay, we're going to move on to 4H, and then just to give you all some hope, we'll probably take a break after that. So 4H. Item 4H is COVID flexibilities. Recommendation to extend the waiver of preconditions related to demonstration of subject matter competence in student teaching. This item is being presented by Cheryl Hickey and Sarah Solari Colombini. This is an information action item for the commissioners. Ms. Hickey, will you please begin?
Certainly. Good morning, commissioners. So this item requests that the commission consider extending the action taken by the commission last year to waive the precondition that requires demonstration of subject matter prior to daily whole class instruction for candidates seeking the preliminary multiple single and ed specialist credentials. The action was one of the flexibilities approved by the Commission last year for candidates enrolled in this current academic year of 2020-2021. For those of you new to the Commission, in March of 2020, when the pandemic suddenly closed K-12 school buildings, and as colleges, universities, and K-12 shifted their educational programs to all online virtual delivery models, thousands of candidates enrolled in programs who were on track to complete their programs only weeks away found themselves unable to complete some of the credential requirements due to the conditions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Addressing this situation necessitated a multi-pronged approach. It took Commission action where it had authority to determine some flexibilities, such as with particular provisions of the clinical practice standards. And where the Commission did not have authority unilaterally to take action, the governor issued an executive order, which was then followed up by legislative action, to ensure that candidates enrolled in the spring of 2020, as well as this current academic year of 2020-2021, were able to be admitted and complete their programs. It was and continues to be imperative that California's educator pipeline is able to continue despite conditions, and that California's teacher shortage not be exacerbated due to the worldwide pandemic. In the agenda item, Appendix A summarizes the current flexibilities and the authority for those flexibilities. And we wanted to make sure in this item to acknowledge the letters that have been submitted on this agenda item and are available to you on the Commission's meeting page. Two of these are explicitly supportive of the proposed action, while the remainder raise significant long-term policy issues about examinations and educator preparation. This item does not address the long-term policy issues around testing. This item deals only with providing some immediate relief to the candidates and to institutions who are in the process right now of securing placements for clinical practice next fall, while the situation around the pandemic is still uncertain and fluid. Longer-term policy changes around the subject matter requirement would require legislative action. Education Code Section 44259B5, which identifies the minimum requirements for a preliminary credential, requires all candidates to demonstrate subject matter prior to being issued a preliminary credential, either through examination or a subject matter program. The next item today, item 4I, is an update on the Commission's examinations, but even more relevant to the topic raised by the letters is agenda item 6A and B, the legislative item, and in particular the discussion about AB 437 CALRA. So you'll have an opportunity to talk about those long-term issues. As we continue to work on these issues, we continue to be committed to working hand in hand with the field, especially program leaders, to gauge what issues they and their candidates are facing due to the pandemic. We are also trying to time things to bring to you as issues are raised so that we're both responsive to the field while recognizing that the situation continues to change every day. We anticipate we'll be back in June and possibly again in August to once again provide you with a chance to assess the situation and to determine other flexibilities that are warranted by the environment at that time. And I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to talk about this particular proposal.
Thank you, Cheryl. So as Cheryl mentioned, the Commission's action has been important in support of the work that is occurring in the field. This item is being brought to the Commission now because candidates are being accepted into programs and programs are working on placements for candidates for this fall semester. This particular item addresses Precondition 6 for the preliminary multiple and single subject programs and Precondition 3 for the education specialist programs. Both of these preconditions require the program sponsor to determine that each candidate meets subject matter competence prior to being given daily whole class instructional responsibilities in a TK-12 school or before becoming the teacher of record as an intern in a TK-12 school. So this agenda item proposes that the Commission consider the extension of this waiver through the 2021-22 academic year to provide candidates the opportunity to continue their program as the testing center capacity and availability is addressed over the course of this next year. So it's important that I'm really clear here about this proposal because it is an extension of a waiver. It does not do away with a requirement. Candidates are still responsible for meeting subject matter prior to being issued the preliminary credential. Staff at the commission has met with a collaborative group of representatives. Cheryl mentioned we're working hand in hand with the field. We've been working with them since June of 2020 to keep current with the challenges that candidates, programs, and employers are facing as a result of this pandemic. We have provided you with a list of the participants in previous agenda items, and we have included that list in this agenda item. So it is with the support and information gathered from this group that staff brings forth the issues to the commission for consideration and action when appropriate. Because the subject matter requirement also impacts intern candidates, this item includes information about how interns will be affected, since their requirements are a little bit different from traditional candidates. The subject matter requirement for interns was waived under the governor's executive order that is in effect until August 31st of 2021. Any intern admitted under the provisions of the current statutory language will be able to serve on the intern document during the 2021-22 academic year without having demonstrated subject matter competence. However, it does not excuse the interns from having to meet subject matter requirements. They must also meet them prior to being issued a preliminary credential. So with that, staff recommends that the commission extend through 2021-22, through that academic year, the previous action to waive the precondition 6 for the preliminary multiple and single subject programs and precondition 3 for the Ed Specialist programs. If this is approved, staff at the commission will issue a program sponsor alert to notify programs of the extension. And of course, we will continue to work with the collaborative group to monitor the impact of the pandemic. Staff will also continue to communicate with the state legislature and administration the possible need to have flexibilities authorized by the governor's executive order, followed by the state budget beyond the August 2021 sunset date. And with that, I'll hand it back to Commissioner Martinez.
Thank you so much. This is an information action item, and we will now open for public comment. I just need a clarifying question. So the recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Yes, we do have public comments.
And recording secretary or executive director Sandy, can you remind me about the time limit for the public comments in terms of individuals? Or do we have one?
Chair Sloan, would you like to give us some advice on whether we should limit comment? We have 7 speakers.
I think we should encourage speakers to limit their comments to 3 minutes. And if they go over, Monica and Commissioner Martinez, then you can just let them know.
Okay, great. Recording secretary, would you mind if one of the CTC staff, well, I'll time it. Never mind. I'll do it. Okay, all right. So recording secretary.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Michelle Peralta, and I'm already ready to time. So
okay, great.
Take that on your list.
Well,
Okay, and
I would just interject. I want to we have 7 speakers. I think we can let them speak. I don't want them to be cut off, but we can just remind them if they're getting close to time. Thank you.
Will do.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Chair Sloan. Okay, recording secretary, if you want to begin with the first public comment.
Yes, Rick Ayers, please state your name and affiliation for the record.
My name is Rick Ayers. I'm a professor of teacher education at the University of San Francisco. So, and I'll keep it short. I'll probably be about 1 minute. I just understand that you're talking about both immediate relief and long-term issues for students who are seeking to become teachers. I'm particularly here today to commend the CTC and the Department of Education for moving towards a broader availability of waivers for those seeking to enter teaching education programs. Particularly for diversifying the teacher corps, this is a crucial development because, as you know, we are facing crisis. We have teachers leaving the field because of the difficulties of COVID that COVID has brought for them. And the pipeline is now clogged, especially because people can't get through testing. Right now, if they are put in the classroom without CSET, they are allowed to teach, but at a lower pay scale. And I think that it creates a hardship for them too. Extensive research is currently demonstrating that the CBEST and CSET do not improve teacher quality, but rather serve as a gatekeeper, particularly that targets people of color. As a teacher educator, I urge you to listen to the graduate faculty that is urging the reasonable and expanded use of waivers so that students can demonstrate their subject matter competency through the extensive work they've done in undergraduate and postgraduate study. That would make a big difference in expanding our teacher corps. Thank you.
Next, we'd like to invite Amy Conley. Please state your name and affiliation for the record.
Hi, my name is Amy Conley, and I am a lecturer at Humboldt State University, but I also just finished my dissertation with Fresno State University. My dissertation looked at what literacy instructors, literacy researchers, and K-12 administrators wanted in coursework that might replace the RICA, which was something that we were talking about last summer with SB 614. I didn't expect this and I didn't ask this, but my participants really said that there needed to be less testing overall of teacher credentials candidates, and that testing should be more performance assessment like the EdTPA instead of evaluative, and that unfortunately, because the RICA is not currently aligned with literacy TPEs that you guys passed in 2019, that instead coursework was being used to prepare for the RICA, but didn't meet current standards. And instead, the coursework should be allowed to prepare for current standards. And I know this is kind of a 4H and 4I, so I'm sort of connected to both of those. They really thought that coursework should instead be focused on writing instruction, foundational literacy skills, and culturally sustaining pedagogy. Thanks.
Marisol Ruiz, please state your name and affiliation for the record.
Hello, I am Marisol Ruiz. I am a professor at Humboldt State University in the School of Education, Teacher Preparation. I am a member of CARE Ed, and I am also a member of California National Association of Multicultural Educators. I am here to urge all of you to think about divesting from all the testing. One reason being is because we really need to examine how we're evaluating future teachers, right? And I urge you to read the book From the Conversation by Robert Levington, who really tells us that if we're examining teachers and we're telling them that they need to show subject matter competencies through these tests and through the CSETs, through the CBEST, through EdTPA, then we need to, and if that tool is telling us or is showing us that teachers of color are not coming through the door, it's because it's a gatekeeper, right? And I've seen, especially now during COVID, as our teachers of color are trying to pass these tests, that it is definitely a gatekeeper. It doesn't show, there's no correlation between these tests, as Rick Ayers mentioned, that these tests show us that this is what good teaching, or if they have even competencies, right? I've seen teachers that just need one part of the CBEST that haven't been able to pass, but passed everything else and haven't been able to get their credentials. Or math teachers, educated in math, have a math degree and can't, but because they didn't take the certain courses, couldn't get their, pass the CSET in math. And here we are losing a math teacher, a Chicano math teacher who already is good at relating to students, right? I think what makes a difference in teacher preparation, and what I'd like you all to consider, is ethnic studies. That's what made me a better teacher. And not just one course, because we know AB 1460 passed. Many courses. I took many courses in Black Studies, Asian Studies, and Native American Studies, which made me able to connect to my students. And I've been teaching since the 90s. I taught with Rick Ayers right there. So, right, you know, I just think that we need to rethink in the ways in which we're evaluating our teachers, and we need to be sincere. Is this tool that we are using to evaluate how teachers come into our program a racist tool? And if it is, then we need to think about how we need to push to reevaluate who comes into the door and who doesn't. Because right now the testing, all of it, even EdTPA, is a gatekeeping mechanism. And also, some of our teachers that are in our program and then get out of our program are like, this is too much. CBEST, CSETs, EdTPA, TPEs. I think the way we do the TPEs is enough. We do 6 formal evaluations on teachers, right? In order for them to demonstrate TPE competencies, right? Then they go with that and they go into their workforce, and they're going to be evaluated again in the TPEs. How much is too much? I mean, how much more do our candidates need to demonstrate? I feel like our programs have become a stressor. Even during COVID, it's like, oh my God, I can't pass the CSAT. Oh my God, I can't pass the CBEST. And so it's just eliminating even the candidates that we do have. So I would urge you to please push to divest from the testing and to reevaluate the ways in which we're credentialing. The other thing I really need you to understand is CSUs, 77% of the CSUs are people of color. This is where investment needs to go. This is where the population is for our new teachers. And the ways in which we're running programs and also evaluating our future teachers needs to be reevaluated. Thank you.
Thank you. Recording Secretary.
Brian Johnson, please state your name and affiliation for the record.
Morning. My name is Dr. Brian Johnson, and I represent the Los Angeles Unified School District in the role of Director, Certificated Workforce Management in our Human Resources Division, and I am grateful to be able to make public comment regarding this agenda item. I had the honor of participating in the collaborative group convened by Commission staff to discuss COVID-19 impacts on teacher candidates seeking to complete their teacher preparation programs. Among the many items this group discussed, the need to consider the extension of flexibilities granted by the Commission in the wake of the current public health crisis was one of the most important. As LEAs, districts, and schools emerge from the pandemic, teacher supply and teacher preparation are 2 of the most important factors in the return to any semblance of normalcy we may have in our schools and in our communities. Given the preliminary reports that many districts are receiving, as well as what is being covered in the media regarding teacher resignations and retirements following the return to on-campus school operations, the need to have a dedicated pipeline of qualified teacher candidates is vital to the continuity of instruction in our schools. As we return to school campuses, we know that districts are looking to utilize the additional funding provided by the state and federal governments to enhance instructional opportunities for our students. Districts are looking to provide prevention and intervention services for students whose educational progress has been negatively impacted by the pandemic, and are seeking to reduce class sizes to be able to better meet the needs of our students in a post-COVID world. These proposals take additional staffing. These flexibilities would provide districts and schools with an expanded candidate pool to hire to meet those needs. Extending the current flexibilities would reduce a barrier that our teacher candidates are experiencing due to the impacts of this pandemic on testing centers, test preparation, and the general pace of normal life. These barriers are particularly acute for underrepresented populations, the very individuals that we are seeking to join the teaching profession so that our students may see themselves in their teachers. Extending the current flexibilities would allow candidates who are otherwise qualified to continue on in their preparation and receive the practical clinical training they need in order to be successful in the classroom and with our students. We support the extension of these flexibilities and are grateful to the commissioners and to Commission staff for taking up this very important item today. Thank you.
Thank you. Recording Secretary.
Brenda Quisp, please state your name and affiliation for the record.
Hi, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Brenda Quispe. I'm so sorry about my camera. I'm having tech issues, so bear with me. So I am a candidate to be part of the teacher residency program. I'm here in the Central Valley. It's been a very long journey to get here. I took like a 5-year break. So it's definitely been hard, but I know that I'm persevering and I will get my classroom. But I am worried about these tests, not just for myself, but for everyone that is having trouble even getting a testing date, right? For my CBEST and my 2 CSETs, I had to go to LA to take it. I had to pay for lodging. I had to make sure that I had childcare. It wasn't easy. And the whole time that I was taking the test, I was like, crap, like I cannot not pass, right? Because I already have some anxiety, like with test taking. I'm not the best test taker, but I know that I have to get through this because that's how I'm going to be able to become a teacher. And I know that these tests don't measure my creativity. They don't measure my ability to make connections and build relationship with my students. But I have to get these tests done. So I hope that y'all consider waiving these tests because I know that if y'all do, then this can definitely break that barrier to having more aspiring educators of color enter the profession, because not only do students of color benefit, but all students benefit from having students of color. So again, I please urge you to consider to please waive these tests and then one day have that conversation about what these tests actually do, who profits, who benefits, because my students don't. No, these tests are absurd to me. And I just want to thank you for your time and your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Recording Secretary?
Samantha Evans, please state your name and affiliation for the record.
Hello, I'm Samantha Evans, and I'm the Vice President of the Cal State Channel Islands Student CTA chapter, as well as currently in my student teaching program at Cal State Channel Islands. And yes, I wanted to speak today because sorry, I'm really nervous. But I wanted to really commend you guys for talking about the exams and being flexible with the requirements. For my cohort, we have the largest group of students ever in the program, and I think it's really due to the fact that the CSET and CBEST were waived for last year, and I really think that continuing that this year will allow for more especially with the challenges around setting up testing and things like that. Right now my program, we're at the end of our journey and we're about to move into teaching and applying for jobs. However, we have a few students who, because of the CBEST and CSET, aren't able to move on with their teaching careers, even though our supervisors and, our mentor teachers are telling us that we're going to be amazing teachers. And one student in particular, she was going to speak today, but she had to go and teach, Giselle Alvarez. She has taken the CBEST 3 times and has had testing anxiety, and she can't pass the math part of the CBEST, but she's studying to be a single subject English teacher, and this is really holding her back from becoming the amazing English teacher that we all know that she's going to be from being in our program. We really want to consider what these tests are measuring and who they're preventing from entering the workforce. And also, I also want with the Cal TPA, for that one, that is really preventing. I know that it's been waived for 5 years, and we really appreciate that. But yeah, our cohort would really like to be able to complete that now, because we know that our first year is already incredibly challenging, and we have a whole induction program to go into. And yeah, look, a lot of us are being stopped because of the 3 camera requirement, or even the 1 and the 2, which we appreciate the modification of. But yes, the school district that I work for, because of equity reasons, they have told us that we shouldn't and cannot ask students to put their cameras on, because we're a tier 1 community. We really want to support our students in that. And there's loads of reasons. I mean, those have all been talked about in other places, but a lot of us are being held back from completing the Cal GPA because of that requirement. And yet, for us, our classrooms, the practical, everyday situation is that the cameras are not on, and that's what we're learning how to teach in, and how we're learning to, engage with our students and connect with them and make sure that they're getting what they need from our classes. We hope that we urge it to be modified to resemble the practical daily teaching experience that we're having and that we're having to work with and learn in this difficult time. Thank you for talking about this, and we're so glad that you're opening up the discussion about what the tests are, the CBEST and Cal GPA and CSET. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Evans, for taking the time to call in and express your experiences and share your experiences. Recording secretary, other public comments?
Yes, Nanette Wills, please state your name and affiliation for the record.
Good morning. My name is Nanette Wills. I'm the Director of Credentials for National University. Can I go ahead and begin?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So I work for National University. It's a very large university. We have candidates from across the state preparing to complete student teaching this coming fall semester. The issue is we are not a traditional school. We have enrollments throughout the year. So we have students starting their program pretty much every day, every month. So the issue is when we enrolled students at the beginning of the pandemic, we were given flexibilities, which we notified all of our students about these flexibilities. When the flexibilities originally came out, it was stated that students would be able to enroll into the program without having to complete the basic skills as an enrollment requirement or the subject matter as an enrollment requirement. These were suspended, and it states in many documents that are on the CTC website that these requirements were suspended for their program, and they must meet it at the end of their program. So there was some conflict, some confusion in the language between different releases of different documents. So there is a January updated flexibility information that stated that students would be able to suspend the basic skills and subject matter for the academic school year. However, if you looked at a different program sponsor, coded correspondence, COVID flexibility document, all these different information pieces that can be found on the CTC website, there's conflicting information. So one says you're allowed to suspend your basic skills and subject matter to the end of your program. Another says you can suspend your basic skills and subject matter to the end of your program for the academic school year. Now we have hundreds of students waiting to complete their exams. It's not that they don't want to complete their exams. They haven't been able to complete their exams because of where they're located, when the exams are available, and for the fear of contracting COVID if they go into these testing sites. So that fear is still there. So we are hoping that the CTC will join us and recommend that these basic skills and subject matter be suspended for the 21-22 school year. Not that they're going to be removed, but they will be suspended so that our students can continue into their program and be able to still pursue their credential and register for their exams given more time. And I understand that we're going to have some online availability of these exams coming in the future, which will greatly help our students. But I'm hoping that at this time, you will support the need to suspend these flexibilities for the 2021-2022 school year. And the fact that the universities, not only National University, but many universities across the state have already begun their placement process. We began our placement process last month, and currently we have very minimal amount of students who were able to either register or take the exams or even go to a site that's been opened. So we're hoping that you will support us in their pursuit to not disrupt their program. Thank you.
Thank you. Recording Secretary?
We do not have any additional requests for public comment.
Okay. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? And I'm going to start with Commissioner Simmons. And then I'm going to go to Commissioner Sloan.
I was the liaison on this collaborative group for the commission, and it was extremely well organized. And I want to thank Cheryl and the group for putting it all together, because we had a truly representative group of employers, IHEs, and really looked at labor, admin, and we looked at it from multiple perspectives. And okay, I'm the HR person on the commission, and let me tell you, this is urgent. Tomorrow, I have interviews with 26 candidates. Next Saturday, I have interviews with another 21 candidates. So this is like real. I had an email this morning from one of our local universities asking about how our interviews will deal with students who some have the RECA, some don't, some have the TPA, some don't. How will we be looking at them? Okay, this is a less than optimal solution. We need a long-term solution. But in the meantime, this is what we can do, and we need to do it. So like for me right now, I need 21 gen ed teachers before August. I need 3 special ed teachers before August, and I need 5 bilingual teachers. And for a little district like us, 3,500 ADA, that's a lot of people. So, but I do have, so I urge you all of my colleagues to support the recommendation. But I have a question for Cheryl. We really have a need in this state to increase the number of teachers who have bilingual authorizations. I was looking at the teacher supply data yesterday, which, if I could use the Excel sheet accurately, said that there was 1,001 people who got either waivers or full authorizations in what an old person calls BCLAD. So my question is, and most programs, it's my understanding, use CSET subtest 3 as the way of demonstrating language competency for the bilingual authorization. So I want to clarify, does this waiver, or does this, whatever we're going to call it, limiting the requirement for the time being, does that also include using the CSET for the language requirement and CSET subtest 3, I think it is. And because some programs use that as part of the bilingual authorization within what they recommend to the commission. That's one way programs do it. Other programs give their recommend their candidates for like a regular multiple subjects, and then they facilitate their taking the CSET after the fact. So how will this impact those two different groups, assuming that CSET would be waived for the purposes of language competence? I think you're muted.
Yes. It doesn't show that you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yes, I wasn't muted, but I didn't have my microphone on. Thank you. I said you raise a really good question, and I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to have to rely on my colleagues at CTC to determine what the impact of this is on that. I don't know, but you have my commitment to find out. And to make sure. You're absolutely right. We have a need for bilingual teachers, and we're working with the bilingual panel right now, and we could extend that, asking them how do we get more bilingual teachers in California as part of their charge as we continue to work with them. But I don't have the answer to that question right now, but I promise I will find out.
Thank you. Commissioner Simmons, any other questions? Okay, I'm going to move on to Commissioner Sloan and then go to Student Liaison Jones.
Thank you. Commissioners, I just wanted to help all of us clarify the exams piece because a lot of our commenters commented on that piece. So I just want to be sure it's a complicated issue that we all understand what we're able to do and what we aren't able to do. So first of all, the commission's examinations are mandated by the legislature. So we are limited in a number of things that we can do. However, I want to point out the things that we have been doing, and both us at the commission and the legislature around some of these issues. We have been moving for quite a long time to figure out ways for candidates to demonstrate competence in these various areas through multiple means, not just via an exam. So let me just go through the three big exams here for just a minute, bear with me. So for the first one, the requirement to demonstrate subject matter competency. That's mandated in Ed Code. And there's three options that people have for this, either a commission-approved subject matter program. You can also complete a course of study that can be deemed equivalent by a subject matter program itself, or you can take and pass the CSET. Now, we also currently have Assembly Bill 437 and Budget Trailer Bill language that would expand those options by recognizing academic majors. And that would also allow for mixing and matching between tests and coursework. So those are important, I think, improvements to the subject matter. Next one, the basic skills proficiency. That's also mandated by Ed Code. We currently have 7 different options for how to meet that requirement. I won't go through all of them, but I will also say that Assembly Bill 312 and Budget Trailer language propose a new option for candidates to demonstrate basic skills by permitting the commission to accept letter grades of B or higher in credit-bearing higher ed coursework in basic reading, writing, and mathematics. So there's another coursework option that is coming down the pike in legislation if it passes. The third big testing area that people referred to had to do with the demonstration of knowledge and skills to provide effective reading instruction. And the test we now have is the RECA. This is also mandated in Ed Code. Currently, there are 2 options to demonstrate reading instruction effectiveness. One is the RECA written examination. The other is the RECA video performance assessment. The governor has proposed a budget of $2 million for updates to these, which is an item that we are going to discuss next. But in addition to that, we have Senate Bill 488, which would require the commission to ensure that by July 2025, all approved teacher performance assessments will also assess candidates for competence in literacy instruction, including but not limited to evidence-based methods of teaching foundational reading skills. So those are the three big areas that have been discussed in our comments, and I just wanted to be sure that we had a collective understanding of what the issues are. And then I would just invite Executive Director Sandy or Cheryl Hickey to correct any errors that I made or add to anything there.
Thank you. And I do have a clarifying question, so I really appreciate this, and hopefully this clarifying question helps other some of our new commissioners. What phase will the candidates be in 21-22? Because that's the extended waiver we're talking about, is for 21-22, right? So what phase are the candidates in? What kind of sticky?
Well, it will depend on when they entered the program. So we have, numerous programs throughout the state. Some admit candidates on a rolling basis. Some admit only once a year for beginning in a traditional kind of academic year. So it will be unique to each candidate. And so this gives the programs that opportunity to figure out. And part of why daily whole classroom instruction is important is because it takes place at different points throughout the state in different programs. Programs have flexibility in how they design their programs. So, this allows the program some flexibility and some breathing space to figure out exactly. But they need to demonstrate subject matter prior to being recommended for the preliminary credential.
Okay, that's really helpful, and also the breadth and diversity helps me understand the need for a waiver given the different phases candidates could be at. So thank you sorry folks to jump in with that clarifying question, but again, thank you Commissioner Sloan for helping us kind of understand the breadth of the test. Any other clarifying questions for the staff or the test that Commissioner Sloan went before I go to Student Liaison Jones? Okay. All right, so Student Liaison Jones, all you.
Awesome. Well, first, I just really want to thank some of the public commenters, Marisol, Brenda, Samantha, and Anit. I appreciate you all for coming on, for speaking, for your courage, Samantha, too. Even though you were nervous, you did great. I just wanted to mention, too, that what they were mentioning is some real stuff. So I know that we have legislation and we have some things in our next agenda items, but I just want us to continue to keep those stories in the back of our minds. A student had to go all the way to LA to take a test, had to get care for that test. They're stories. These are stories that are happening with our educators. I just don't want us to forget it. I'm definitely in support of pushing this, making this so that we can go into 2022 with this waiver. I also wanted to share with, I know Samantha, you mentioned about how there's people who are graduating this semester. This is also at my school site too, who haven't completed any tests, but they're done with most of their program requirements. So I just wanted to put out there that there is the program sponsor variable team waiver. So it's the program sponsor variable team waiver. That's the PSVTW. Just ask your credentialing team, your folks at your school site, to see if that's something that your colleagues can participate in, because it is an option to be a teacher, but not necessarily have all of those requirements, those testing things done. So just ask about that. I just want to put that out there because there are different things that have been brought in so that we can continue to teach and that we're not all out of a job. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you always, Student Liaison Jones, for bringing the experience that you do and it's exactly why we have someone like this role on our commission. So thank you for always elevating that voice of our candidates and our teacher candidates. I don't see any other questions, and so we're going to move to vote. So I just want to, and then after that, we'll move to a break. So, okay, I did just see a hand. Commissioner Heredia?
I'd like to make a motion to accept staff's recommendation for this item.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Do we have a second? Okay, I have a second from Commissioner Cardenas. Okay, we will move to a vote, and just remember your responses are aye, nay, or abstain. Madam Secretary.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
C. Michael Cooney,
Aye.
Marco Direttore,
Aye.
Marisol Direttore Escobedo,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howick,
Aye.
Susan Heredia,
Aye.
Harry Jackson,
Aye.
Bonnie Clark,
Aye.
Jem Marks,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Tina Sloan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, and thank you especially Ms. Hickey and Ms. Solari Colombini for bringing this item to us. Before we move on to 4I, which is a conversation around testing, I suggest a break, and I think maybe perhaps a little over 10 minutes. If everybody, I'll just check in with Executive Director Sandy and Chair Sloan, maybe 5 till 11. Does that sound right to you at 10:55?
That sounds great.
Okay. All right. Remember to put yourself on mute, turn your cameras off, and we'll see you guys at 10:55.